Hey everybody, it's Durger time. You know what that means. It's time for another episode of TEW 2020, AEW New Era, where we are trying to take AEW in this said new era, maintain that momentum. It's our objective-based challenge game, and we've been booking AEW now for, like 2 months, something like that, a month and a half. We're basically like a couple weeks ahead of the real world by a little bit, by about like 2 to 3 weeks. And it's kind of funny because I wanted to have it booked so we weren't running the same show, right? That we were a little bit ahead of the time, that we can kind of start to do our own thing, but still kind of keep it relevant to what's going on. So it's not super far behind, but it's not super far ahead either. That's why we had a couple weeks of double episodes and things like that. It's kind of funny because we are wrapping up some storylines in the save that are kind of hangovers from the start, that were kind of what we considered the natural conclusion of some of the stories. So some things seem pretty similar. We're going to start to go our own different way within the save as we kind of branch off. But it seems like the real world keeps on tagging along, because the last episode we had a special Dynamite episode, so a non-pay-per-view but an event, a television event called Witching Hour. And that was at the end of October for Halloween. And we had the return of Hangman Page, who defends Kota Ibushi after his loss to square off against Kenny Omega, clearly leading towards the beginnings of Hangman versus Kenny concluding, right? Leading towards probably Full Gear. And my plan was that he would return, and then we would do a casino like battle royal for the shot, or like a ladder match or something like that, to move him up there. Now, we were not really doing the rankings. I know we said we were going to do rankings. I played around with it, but it doesn't work very well. I'm just kind of keeping track of momentum. But honestly, truthfully, the ranking system's a little too arduous to run. But in the spirit of AEW, someone shouldn't just come in at the bottom of the card and get a title shot, right? So Hangman needs a couple big wins to become number one contender. He needs to win a challenge. So I was going to put him in like a ladder match. And then I turned on TV last week, and lo and behold, we had on the show Hangman Page returning as the Joker in a ladder match for number one contendership at a title shot at Full Gear. So it's like we still can't avoid reality. We're still booking similarly, I guess. Maybe we have to do some rapid turns and adjustments, but it's still where I want to go. I think even in fantasy booking, it's wrong to have anybody other than Hangman take the belt from Kenny. And so I'm not going to allow anybody else to do it. There's a lot of people out there that say things like, oh, well, Bryan Danielson should because, oh, man, he's the new toy and ooh, shiny toy. And no, that's it. You set the story up, you finish the story, it needs to be Hangman. I know you got all these new shiny toys in the boxes, and everybody that's watching AEW is super excited that all their new favorites are there. No. The person that takes the belt needs to be Hangman, and we're staying true to that. So what happens after that, who knows? It could be a very short reign. It could, who knows what's going to happen after that for us, but that is what we're going to do. Spoilers, we're going to get there for it. In order to get there, we're going to have to do some things to get them there, but that's fine. But we also have some other cool storylines. Obviously, as you see on the side, we got a brand new champion for our TNT champion. We got Rush has become the new TNT champion after Miro only a couple title defenses for a US champion. Actually didn't do too bad. When you look at it, Cody had 2, Brody had 2, he had 3. But in an upset after a short title reign, Eddie Kingston got completely clobbered by Roosh. Hopefully that did something for his momentum. He's recognizable. He has warm momentum. I think Eddie is also just recognizable. He's well known. So Roosh is not in the same position for in terms of popularity as Eddie Kingston is. So it was a good move, I think, to have him take the belt. It's a big move for him. It gives him a lot of momentum. Eddie was more than gracious to do so. And, Eddie's totally fine. It didn't hurt him in the slightest. Hopefully it gave Roosh a little bit of a win. And now we get to run Roosh as a powerhouse. Sort of a Miro-like character where we are going to have him crush some people. Will those matches do well? I don't know. He's got a very low popularity in America, and that's going to be sort of part of our little project to kind of build him back up. Can we do it? I think so. But it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, let's say. So that is something we have to deal with. Anyways, we have an episode of Rampage, and we have another episode of Dynamite. Let's go ahead and let's get on to Rampage here and see what shakes out. All right, looks like we are in the Southeast, and I think we'll keep that. We do have some backstage incidents here, one with Eddie and one with Emi Sakurai and Riho. Sakurai, I'm never going to get her name right. Someone has said that they're going to do a drinking game of every time I have to say Emi Sakura wrong, that they're going to drink, and I feel so bad for them. Eddie Kingston, what did you do? You organized and then won a video game tournament, and Emi Sakura had passed the tips on to Riho. Very good. Let's do an open forum. We got some people that are a little irritated. Give them a little bit of a boost. Not a big deal. And we are pretty much ready to go. So we got this interesting kind of double dynamic here where the Elite are fighting with the Super Clique, and there's tensions between Adam Cole and Omega, but now Omega's also got his attention split to Hangman Page. So that there's going to be some drama there set in. And I don't know how it's going to shake out yet, but I think I have an idea where it's going to go. But, it's definitely an interesting dynamic because we have two basically simultaneous storylines involving the same players in different directions. So it's kind of a complicated one to deal with. And now what we also have to do is kind of move Punk off of Team Taz into some other territory. I haven't figured out where I want him to be yet. So if you guys got ideas, let me know. Right now, I'm just kind of utilizing him as a worker. I have kind of ideas of where I would want for him to go, but they're a little far out. And I don't really know as a short-term story for like a month or two where I really want him yet. But I do want him putting on good matches to boost up our ratings. Now, we did add up the other ratings, but we're still at the same averages. This will probably, if we do another good show, we're probably going to bump up a little bit. But I feel like we got a decent handle. But Rampages are always my weakness. So, guys, I don't book to score. If I did, we would get like 88s on this show. But we're booking for story. But sometimes that means that we totally miss the mark. But I'm going to try to not lose any more chips. So, we'll see. Alright, guys, we got a Rampage. Don't know how this is going to do, but we will see. We have to hit a 62 in order to... actually, we had to hit a 63 in order to maintain our momentum. We got some good big matches here. We got a lot of things happening on this show. So I don't really know where it's going to shake out, but let's go ahead and let's see. We start the show off with an announcement that there's going to be a world title eliminator tournament. It's something that they did around the same time last year, but we're going to coincide it with Full Gear, and I think I'm going to push Full Gear back a week in order to make it all work out. But we're actually going to have two matches tonight in that eliminator tournament, just to get the ball rolling. And they're going to be pretty good matchups, but we have this is not the order of the matchups, but we have Brian Cage, Hangman Page, CM Punk, Darby Allin, Andrade, Jon Moxley, Adam Cole, and Miro are all going to be in the eliminator tournament. Winner gets a shot at the title at Full Gear. So a lot of interesting elements here. CM Punk's first title opportunity in AEW. Andrade in a tag team that is looking like they are in a stable that is looking to be massively on the rise. Moxley, a former champion. Darby Allin, who's greatly on the rise. Former TNT title holder Miro. And Adam Cole, a new face who clearly has a vendetta against Kenny Omega. Obviously, we know where this is going to shake up. We're going to use this tournament as an opportunity to maybe tell a few extra stories and start planting the seeds for some things after the fact. There's a few things in here that I think we could do that could be interesting. So that's going to be where we're going to go with that. This segment gets a great rating, and it gets the crowd hot. And a lot of that is just all of this was rated on overness. Just, in general, people are really hot about seeing who's going to be in that tournament and who's going to be matched up. And then we don't have a match yet, in a very un-AEW-like. We have a promo segment. Backstage, we have Christopher Daniels. He's in the dark. He's got that bloodied, injured eye that's never healed, and it's highlighted in a red light to kind of pinpoint on that eye, to almost make it look like a ghostly, like a glowing red through the darkness that he's kind of half casted in. It's like half of his body is sort of in the shadow and half of it's lit. And the half that's not there is the one with the injured eye. It's kind of got the light beaming on it to kind of make it glow. And he starts talking biblical. This is very clear that this is not the Daniels that left, that retired. He seems to be angrier, a little bit more focused. And he says, in every ancient legend, there's a story about a man whose hubris defeats him. This man lived in glory, and he was revered by all those who knew him. But he began to grow too confident in himself and his skills, did not see the cracks in his defenses. He rebuked the help of others when he desperately needed it. He began to dream bigger and bigger, dream bigger than God himself, and divined for himself greater plans than any simple mortal could. These figures throughout history all have the same end. They fly too close to the sun, and they pay the price in their own flesh. And he kind of makes a motion to his eye, still permanently bloodied and injured from his last match. But some don't perish. Some simply drop into the belly of darkness to learn from their mistakes, to be reborn, to grow, now without those limitations that they had before. In Matthew 25:41, he talked about the devil and his angels being cast out and thrown to hell. What the book doesn't say is sometimes those angels rise up after they fall. I'm back, and I'm coming for what's mine. So, we got Christopher Daniels, clearly heel, coming back, the fallen angel gimmick returning, and he says he's coming back for what's mine. So that indicates probably the tag titles, but maybe not. Maybe he sees the world title, maybe sees the TNT title. There's a lot of possibilities here of what he could be looking for. But he seems to be re-emerging onto the scene. This does a 54. It's not bad. It gets the crowd hotter, which is good. And it does about as much as you could expect from this. And we do want to go ahead and turn him heel. This match is not great. We have our trios tag team champions fighting against JD Drake, Cesar Bononi, and Peter Avalon. It didn't have much heat and had terrible wrestling. The Best Friends squash. Well, it's not really a squash. It's like a 10-minute match, but they defeat Peter Avalon's Pretty Party here in 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Wheeler Yuta pins Peter Avalon and gets the win. Orange Cassidy head and shoulders above everybody else. JD Drake, Cesar, and Peter Avalon not doing great here. Neither did Wheeler. Wanted to give Wheeler a win. Gets a 50. It's okay. Honestly, all things considered, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I knew this was going to be a weaker match. I'm not super concerned because we have 2 of our tournament matches after this, and they are going to very likely get very high segment ratings. But we give the trios champion just a little more wins. After they got this title, we haven't really done much with them. A lot of it has to do with just weird issues with our current groups that we have trios of, with people being injured or out of it or stuff like that. So just giving them a bit of a win with some developmental talent on Rampage seemed okay. We have another backstage segment that's pretty good. 64, Andrade and the rest of the Familia are backstage and talking. We got Ric Flair, who's managing them, wooing repeatedly and kind of cutting in and out of the dialogue with some words of his own. But eventually, the key point is Andrade, who points out the Lucha Brothers gold, points out Rush's gold. Pentagon and Ray Phoenix also are AAA champions. They got double belts. And, he says that you see, the legacy has just begun. The legend starts here. There's like Lucha Brothers, tag champions. Rush, TNT champion. And there's only one stop to greatness. That's because I, Andrade El Idolo, will win this tournament and go on to become AEW World Champion. So, clearly calling it out, Andrade wants the belt. He wants to be an entire stable full of champions. And, that's basically a simple little storyline, but that's kind of what we're building. We're sort of building this sort of Latin Four Horsemen storyline going on here. And Andrade wants to be the head of it all, but he needs the gold to really cement that legacy. It gets a 64, which is not bad. We have the first of our tournament, which is CM Punk versus Adam Cole. A really good match. Adam Cole was actually the weak link here with a 65. Had fantastic heat and had great wrestling. CM Punk does defeat Adam Cole in 11 minutes. Pinfall with a go to sleep. But it's kind of a dirty go to sleep because during the match, Kenny Omega ran in with the rest of the Elite and ended up attacking Cole after Punk got boomed a little bit. Kenny Omega wanted to make sure that the Super Click and Adam Cole did not get any further in the tournament, and we made sure to give him a one-winged angel and essentially really weaken him for a definite defeat. So it kind of protects a little bit of this matchup, protects Adam Cole a little bit, and kind of makes it a non-clean finish. Gets us a 78, but obviously CM Punk moves on into the world title eliminator. It's 8 people, obviously, so it's going to be a pretty short tournament, especially when we're doing 2 of them here. But we don't have a lot of time, so we're going to have an accelerated tournament span here, because we're not going to end the finals on the show. We are going to have it either the Rampage or Dynamite before. So a little bit of not hot shotting, but we got to rush through this a little bit in order to get it going. Afterwards, Cole groggy still, realizes that he got screwed over, and sees Kenny Omega. The two start brawling, and they have a 3-minute brawl through the crowd into the concourse. Kenny Omega ends up getting the better of it with multiple V triggers to Cole, and kind of continuing that storyline. It's a 69, it's not too bad. And in our main event, we got Jon Moxley versus Hangman Page. Jon Moxley coming back from a good win from a hardcore match against Bryan Danielson. But this is where he leaves this this tournament, because Hangman Page does defeat Jon Moxley in 14 minutes by pinfall after a buckshot lariat. Somehow Hangman Page broke his eardrum. And the two of them just don't click at all in their performance. Moxley had a 63, Hangman had a 57, gets us a 54. I expected a little bit more. I knew Hangman was going to be a little bit weaker in the rating, but I was kind of hoping Moxley would carry him a little bit more. But nevertheless, Moxley, again, we're building that story of like Moxley's feeling outcasted and like where do we go with him. This is kind of building that up again of like, he was the AEW champion, and yes, he just got that win back in a brutal hardcore match, but it's really just a 1-1, and here we are again, his momentum cut away immediately, and Hangman has shown that Jon Moxley, that AEW's moved on from Jon Moxley. Now what does Jon Moxley do, right? That's sort of the long-term story that we're trying to build with Moxley here. But in the meantime, we got to worry about this eardrum. Very bad. I think that he can work through it. We'll see, but I hope so at least. After that, Hangman Page, sweated up, grabs a beer, and he ends up having a in-ring interview with Tony Schiavone, who just says, you came back at Wicked, Witching Hour. We haven't had a chance to talk to you. Now you're already moving on to the quarterfinals of this tournament. What's going on, why you're here, blah, blah, blah. He kind of gives a few answers, and it's pretty much what you expect. Like, I had a kid, I'm back, I'm ready to do this. Before he can really get much further, he's interrupted by Cult of Personality. CM Punk obviously just won his match, and he comes out to interrupt Hangman. He comes to the ring, he's getting cheered on. He asks for a microphone. He's all smiles, obviously, as he's talking to Hangman. He's happy Punk still. And he kind of points to the whole audience, right? And he goes like, you hear that? And the crowd's cheering, and the crowd's actually in a mixed cheer right now. It's like a Hangman. It's a Cowboy Shit and CM Punk. And he says, this building's electric. But there's like an anxiety in the room. It's odd, isn't it? Like, for a month, the crowd's just had a field day. It's been a love fest here. Just CM Punk shouted over and over again. And it's been great. But now that I'm standing here across from you, he grins at him. Yeah, there's a little trepidation here, isn't there? Because they know what we both know, you and I, that we're going to plow through this tournament like two trains, barreling down at each other on the same track. That we're destined to collide. And the weird thing is, they don't know who to cheer for. So, Mr. Page, be prepared. Because I might be Mr. Nice Guy right now, but when that bell rings and we meet face to face, you're going to get all of CM Punk. He winks at him and walks away. Punk's still like the good guy here, right? But like there's a little bit of a hint of something there that, he's joking about it, but is he upset that Hangman Page is getting the cheers that he was, right? Is there a bit of jealousy there? Don't know. But he says what we're all thinking, which is, man, Punk and Hangman are pretty much, if they're on the opposite ends of this tournament, are probably going to meet at the finals. What the hell does that look like? Because is Hangman going to give Punk his first loss? That's crazy. So there's all of that, right? And they're interesting element there because we might give Punk his first loss very early. It seems almost inevitable. Or does CM Punk actually beat Hangman Page and Hangman loses his opportunity for the title? That's basically been his destiny for 2 years. So that's how we're kind of building this tournament up. It ends the show fantastically with an 86. We need a 63. Let's see what the final score is. Final score is a 65, which is 3 points above. Does not get us any new chips, but it keeps us away from having to lose any more and start to activate the penalties, which is good. I want to save that for as long as possible. You guys don't, I do. But overall, pretty good Rampage. Unfortunately, the averages are going to start to get higher and higher, and it's going to be harder to maintain that. All right, we got some mail. Contract negotiations with Jerry Lynn, get him back in. And we got the injury with the broken eardrum. We need to take a look at that because that's gonna really really be a problem. Let's see. Can only work angles. We're gonna give him the surgery. Very low risk. Should now be back sooner. 22 days. He's going to miss the tournament. Holy crap. Durger Curse. Durger Curse, man. He's going to miss the tournament. He's got to bow out of it. How crazy is that? I mean, we can work around that, but not really by much. I mean, them's the rules. So I guess Hangman's not gonna win the title at Full Gear. It certainly doesn't seem like it. We got it in 15 days. I gotta double check because I do want to make sure it is. Yeah, I want it for week 3. Because we had witching hours so soon that was that October week. That week 4 of October, I want to give it a little bit of time to breathe. 22 days is much better. Should give us time to do what we need to do. But we're going to have to rebook some stuff because, man, I don't know. So, obviously, we still have Darby Allin and Andrade. We got Miro and Cage. We got Punk.
We got... where are we at? Southeast again?
But someone's going to get a bye.
It seems like it wants to constantly put us there because that's where...
that's crazy.
Where we're home-based on. Let's go
that's
southwest.
Super nuts.
Let's head out there.
Towards California to Arizona.
That's rough.
That's showbiz,
maybe
right?
mid-south. All right. Let's get the Dynamite.
Head out that way first. As we kind of tour around, we will select best option. We're going to have 3,900 fans, not 39,000. Venue can hold just a little under 5,000, so that should be A-okay. Let's go ahead and see what our incidents are. More protege training. That's about it. We will, again, open forum, just let people sort of air their grievances. Let that kind of blow over a little bit. Unfortunately, Hangman is available for non-wrestling roles, but is going to be out for another, 17 days. Just unfortunate. Ray Phoenix is out, and Shawn Spears is out. We're running the gambit here. We can't have a tag match because with our own tag team champions. When Phoenix is back 41 days, so they're gonna miss Full Gear. So we won't have a tag champion ship match on Full Gear. It's crazy. Hangman will be back. But yeah, man, it's Matt Jackson just working through his injury, which is thankfully, but it's just real rough. real bummed about the Hangman situation, and we're gonna have to figure out how to call an audible. I'm gonna do my best to see what we do here. I don't know. I really don't know. But let's go ahead and let's book Dynamite, and let's see what we can just kind of make out of those best laid plans. Alright guys, we got another Dynamite, and we'll try to salvage what we can, but it is what it is. It's a weird show, trying to touch on a lot of different storyline threads that we have going on while still trying to maintain focus. I don't know how successful it is, but we'll see how it does. We need to get a 67 or higher to maintain our momentum. We start the show off with a segment where Bryan Danielson comes out and says that he's having fun really experiencing all that there is to offer in AEW, but he still has a taste of Japan, but he can't really get over there right now, and says, we have the US title holder right here. Maybe we can have a match. And Lance Archer comes out with Jake Roberts, and after much aplomb, the two decide to have a match tonight for the main event. So, IWGP US title on the line, Bryan Danielson versus Lance Archer. Got the crowd hotter, get the show a strong start. Overall segment rating was fine. We have in our next bout here part of the World Title Eliminator Tournament, Andrade Idolo versus Darby Allin. And we give Andrade a good win against Darby Allin. 15 minutes, pinfall, the hammerlock DDT. Ric Flair was at the ringside and distracted Darby Allin. Darby had a 72, Andrade had a 72. The two did very good here, though it was poorly paced. It was a worked crowd match, I think. I should have kept it as Steal the Show, would have got a little bit higher. Ultimately got a 69, which is not too bad, considering that penalty there. This, of course, means that Andrade moves on into the tournament, which he would have faced Hangman Page. Afterwards, though, the Familia, I guess, upset maybe a little bit about that distraction. Not upset, but distracted. Being ringside and distracting people, Sting was upset by the distraction, came to face off with some of the Familia, specifically Ric Flair, and Roosh and Pentagon, who are also ringside, ended up interfering, and they end up overwhelming Sting and beating him up, building up a little bit of drama if we want to have a short feud with Sting and Darby versus the Familia, as they kind of use their numbers to be heelish and beat up the old man. And not much to say about it. It's a 59. It's okay. We have the heartbreaking announcement from Hangman Page as he comes out, bandaged at this point, or at the ear, with a little bit of a head wrap, and he says that the doctors attempted to do emergency surgery after his match on Rampage last week. They cut the camera showing the blood coming out of his ear. It says that there was a concussive damage that tore part of his eardrum, and he was not cleared to fight, that if he did, he could risk permanently going deaf in one ear. The crowd is clearly heartbroken as he announces that he has to forfeit his place in the tournament and his potential title shot. Got the crowd hotter, though. He did very well in this segment, gets us a 70. The segment that does not do well is the Inspiration versus Emi Sakura and Riho. It's not very good. Didn't have much heat, had terrible wrestling. Inspiration defeat Sakura and Riho in 12 minutes. Cassie Lee pins Sakura with a fall from grace. And it's not great. I don't know. It's I didn't have this work the crowd match. I don't know why this was set as that. But it's not a great match at all, and it is what it is. We have an interview in which Alex Marvez is very underwhelming as an interviewer. He interviews Christian Cage about his animosity towards Jungle Boy. Christian Cage has some words for him. He says, I don't think Jungle Boy is a bad guy. I even like him. I see some of him in me. I see some of me in him. But there's also just that lingering thing of I've worked my ass off. I've outworked everyone. Jungle Boy hasn't. Right? He's got a famous dad, and it just feels like everything's fallen into place at him at such a young age because of who he knows and who he belongs to, and that he's not doesn't really the passion isn't there, and instead it's just more of a rich kid's hobby for him, and not an art form that someone like Christian had bled and sweat for. And he doesn't hate him, and he just wants to put him in his place and make sure he knows where his role is in the pecking order and have a little humility. So Christian Cage thinks that he's doing this for Jungle Boy, right? So Christian's great in it. The segment, unfortunately, is a little underwhelming. It's a 53. We got the Men of the Year versus the Acclaimed. It's not very good. Another situation, Scorpio had a 48, Ethan Page had a 43, Casper had a 30, Bowens had a 30. It's not great. I don't know. It's bad. It's 45. Men of the Year do defeat the Acclaimed. Scorpio Sky pins Anthony Bowens. Afterwards, though, Scorpio Sky raises Ethan Page's hand and then turns on him, gives him a lariat, and knocks him out. Ethan Page has no idea what the hell just happened. Scorpio Sky walks up to the ramp where we see Christopher Daniels donning his sort of red and black fallen angel get up, this sort of long coat. He's not wearing that old weird World War II German like SS uniform thing. He's wearing like sort of like a more of like a dark like long coat, you know, almost like what Brody had worn, but it's like red and black. So clearly Christopher Daniels has summoned Scorpio Sky and has broken up the tag team of Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky in order to bring him under his fold here. So we now have Daniels and Scorpio Sky. The segment gets a 51. Another match is sort of an We have Ruby Soho versus Serena Deeb. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just sort of average. Serena Deeb defeats Ruby Soho in 9 minutes for the pinfall with a spear. Kind of wanted to just see how these two did and if there was any chemistry, and give Ruby some time on the show, because we've kind of put her on the back burner a little bit. We've kind of put a lot of people on the back burner a little bit, so I kind of wanted to have some hints of some people coming in and out so that they are on the show. I know we don't have those penalties anymore, but I still want to kind of provide a little bit of that on there. And I wanted another women's match to balance out the show. Unfortunately, it doesn't do great. Also, a match that doesn't do very great. Man, we're going to lose some chips today. A squash match with Rush and Fuego del Sol. Sometimes you have those Dynamites in real life where you're just like, this is a filler show. I think this is a filler Dynamite, and we're going to pay the price. This is a terrible match. Rush defeats Fuego del Sol in a defense of the TNT title. Gives him the Rush driver in 6 minutes. Fuego had a 19. Rush had a 53. Yeah. Afterwards, Rush beats up Fuego a little bit and draws Sammy Guevara out to defend him, in which Rush backs away a bit, and the two have a bit of a stare down, building up a little bit of a short-term beef between the two of them that could be interesting. This is okay. It's a 40. I realized we really haven't done much with Sammy, and I thought maybe a short-term feud with Rush would be a good way to go. Afterwards, this segment's okay. We still haven't officially named Bray Wyatt. I have some ideas. You guys have been giving me some, but still, let me know if you have any other ideas, because I'm still trying to figure out which ones I like the most. But we are bringing him back into sort of this cult leader that he's wearing the Hawaiian shirts. He's got the wicker fedora, so he's kind of bringing it back to his older style. But we're going to do something kind of like the Demon with him, I think. I think we're going to jump back and forth between a couple different personas when needed, or he might evolve into different things as we need him to. But right now, he's definitely taking that sort of mysterious cult leader figure with him here. Evil Uno gets on the microphone in the ring. He calls out Stu, and he wants to know why Stu's betrayed him. He said, we've been friends for 15 years. We've tagged in, every location across Canada and the U.S. For nothing, for pennies. And now that they were at the height of their success, they turn on him, and he's heartbroken. He doesn't understand why. He just wants an answer. Is there anything that we can do to solve this? Behind, Stu shows up on stage. He's wearing the Vega mask now, but behind him, the mysterious figure, Bray Wyatt, who we don't have a name for yet, emerges and smiles ominously from beneath his wicker fedora. He has a microphone in his own hand. He says to Uno, Mr. Grayson need not answer to you. He simply has seen the truth that if there's a plight in your crops, you need to sacrifice the weak in order for the strong and healthy to be fruitful. The Dark Order was supposed to be about becoming better people, was it not? Well, what is it now in your vacuum of leadership? A bunch of silly children playing grown-up. Stu needed more. He needed strength. He needed guidance. He needed me. And all he needed to do is let me in, and I provided. Uno's like, well, who the hell even are you? And he wags his finger and goes, now is not the time for more exposition. Now is the time to display promises fulfilled. Rampage. You will have your chance to best Stu Grayson. Or for Stu to show you what true power truly is. So we got this sort of, I love my cult figures, but, we got Bray as the cult leader kind of saying, the Dark Order was a great idea, but it's led us astray. There's no leader. There's a power vacuum. And where is that true strength? What is your goal? And he's trying to provide that goal. And, we'll learn more about his motives and things like that. It's not going to be just Dark Order Redux. He's got his own agenda, but right now he's playing Stu's needs, right, against him to kind of pick apart the Dark Order, and we'll have a match with Stu and Uno at Rampage. And we have in our main event, which is really underwhelming. Unfortunately, we paced the whole show poorly, and Lance Archer kind of gave out on this. It was going to be a technical showcase with to kind of play on Brian Danielson's strengths. Unfortunately, Lance Archer wasn't quite able to keep up. But in a 22-minute match, Brian Danielson beats Lance Archer and wins the IWGP US title. Lance Archer had a 48 in this match. Brian Danielson had an 85. And we definitely probably needed to pace the show better. There was a couple weird oddities in terms of what was set for what. One of the women's matches was supposed to be a cool down match, and I think it was accidentally set to work the crowd, so the crowd never cooled down for the match in order to kind of benefit it, and we definitely suffered from it. Danielson ends up coming out at the end and being completely battered. Weakly holds up the IWGP US title, getting his taste of Japan and getting a title win here in AEW, ending with a 68. We need a 67 to maintain, and we get a 60. So we lose a lot of points here. We are below 5, so we lose 3 chips. Brings us down to, I think we only have 11 left. I know it's hard to see in this chip stack here, but there are a few underneath this other one. I'll have to do a double count, but we are barreling dangerously close to the bottom of this stack, in which case the first of our penalties will begin, and we definitely have to make sure we do not run another Dynamite like this again. Oof, a rough show. Ric Flair has opinions about QT Marshall. I don't really care what Ric Flair's opinions are. We had a 1.88, which is very good, but it feels like a defeat. I feel like this episode has kicked me in the gut and really put me through the ringer. The Hangman Page being removed from this tournament is heartbreaking, leading to some type of finals where it's going to be Andrade versus either CM Punk or either Miro or Brian Cage. Probably Punk is what I'm thinking. So it'll be interesting to see where we go with that. My intention was to have a Punk versus Hangman match and actually have Hangman beat Punk just barely, like a tainted one, but still do it and then start to build animosity. I don't know if I want Punk to face Kenny Omega right now, though. So I might do something real wild, but I don't know yet. But yeah, it's a rough show. We lost some momentum. Yeah, it's the Durger Curse is real, folks, and it is bubbling its head up in a nasty way in this save. But we'll persevere. Part of booking is having to call those audibles and figure out what we're going to do. What I know we have to do is put on a much better Rampage, but that is for another week. So thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you next time for another episode of AEW New Era.